you're like, I got to do a really good job, right? So you want to spend all this time up until you're up here, which incidentally, it's amazing how short the beginning of church is when you're expected to come in and tell it. But yeah, you pour through, the scriptures, you read it, you ponder it, and you go to like Sermon Central, read what other people have already talked about, right? Try to get your head going, and you have this plan. Or maybe you have a really crazy weekend where you're staying up till 1 a.m, finishing your discussion questions and writing essays about things you don't really care about to try to get a good grade. And you go, oh gosh, I gotta share the word. And you think about borrowing somebody's sermon, maybe adding a little. But this crazy thing happens. That's what I'm talking about, planning. I joke with Sarah when it's my turn to share the word that what I really want to do is just come up and say, everybody, Jesus loves you, love your neighbor, amen, and sit down. The crazy thing is, this message, I think I really could do that. And the thing about plans, well, I share one of my favorite jokes. How do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. I have like 5 pages over there of things from another sermon I was thinking about trying to integrate together, because the parable, this is the parable of the weeds, in case you didn't know. And the last parable from last week would have been called the parable of the sower. They were from the same sermon that Christ gave, and they go together. It is not by coincidence that they're sequential, because they speak to each other and they build off of each other. And so I had thought that I was going to come and talk to you about listening. I thought that's what it was about. That's what I felt the last parable was talking to us about, was about listening and hearing, which is very important. And I was going to build off of that because the message seems to be similar. Last time we had these seeds that were sown in not such an ideal area, and the question is, how do they grow? What do we use as our guiding force to get by? And you have these dangers around you. You have like poor soil that's not going to develop, you remember? And so you start to grow, but then you wither, or maybe you get tangled with another weed and it draws you down. And I thought, what's happening here? We have the enemy who came by, right? That's the adversary who sowed these other seeds, and then when they're going to grow, well, now you've got the good seeds and the bad seeds, and they're growing together, and that's what it's about. But just like last week, I sat there and I was reading, and Romans started talking to me, and the Psalms we see start talking to me, and I go, that's not what we need to talk about. What we need to talk about is loving your neighbor. And it seems like a big chasm, but really it's not. And it's all, again, right here in the Word. We look at Romans and we see, but you have received a spirit of adoption. And how does that apply? Well, the fact is, if we look over at Matthew, we have the one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom, and the weeds are the children of the evil one. So it's a question of who there are children of. But we talk about this spirit of adoption, which means you're making a choice. You're making a choice who you're going to be a child of. Are you going to follow the adversary, or are you going to follow the Lord? And you think, well, that's fine and good, John, but I mean, it's pretty clear cut, right? Because there's the good seeds and there's the bad seeds. There's the wheat and then there's the weeds. And they said that, should we go out and gather up the weeds? No, because you can pull up the wheat. What we're going to do is let them grow. We're going to take the weeds, we're going to throw them in the furnace. It's pretty clear cut, right? We take the weeds from the adversary and we burn them. We keep the wheat and they grow in glory. But this is where, when the sermon was preached in its native language and translated to another language, we lose something in translation. And that's what the seeds are. Maybe you've already heard of this, because again, this is another parable preached on a lot, but pretty neat, the seed. When we talk about seed, The word for seed in the Greek translation, according to Thayer's, was zizaniah, which is described, according to Thayer, as a plant that looks like wheat, but is a kind of darnel, bastard wheat, except the grains are black. Which means the reason that they said, don't go out and pull up the weeds, is not just the nature of the weed, which this weed actually binds its roots into the good plant, so it would be almost impossible to pull it out without pulling the other one. But even if you were clever enough to sort that out, looking at the stalk of the plant as it grows, it's almost impossible to tell which is the wheat and which is the bearded darnel until it's almost time to bloom the fruits. And then you have these black seeds, and then you have the other wheat. And I think that is the message it's talking to us. It's saying, it's not your job to go out and sort out the weeds. It's not your job to go out and judge. I mean, it talks about how the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. Waits for the revealing of the children of God in much the same way that you have to wait for this harvest to find out who is the wheat and who is the weed. It's the fruit that makes the difference. Everything in the field is the same. It's the fruit inside that makes the difference between what is wheat and what is a weed. So it's what's inside us. We look inside ourselves. We don't look at the outside. We need to develop it. We need to make a choice. I think this talks about our neighbors in congregations, our neighbors in life, our neighbors at work, the people around us. It is our job as a Christian to love one another. It is not our job to sort the wheat from the chaff and the weeds from it. Because even at the end of the gospel, the Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out his kingdom all causes of sin and evildoers. It doesn't say he's going to send the wheat to try to sort it out from them. It's not the workers of the field. That will happen at the time of harvest. And so I think that also talks about transformation. Because just like you're looking at them growing together and you say, gosh, they look the same, what's it going to turn out to be? And you don't know until the moment of fruition. I mean, what if you're casting away your neighbor because you think that they're a weed, but they're not a weed? They're a wheat. They just haven't bloomed yet. And that's what it's about. It's about blooming. It's about looking at the inside. It's about loving. And it's about sharing. So that was an awful lot of talk. But just like I hoped, today I really could have said, Jesus loves you. Love one another. Remember his commandment. Love one another as I loved you. Because that's really the good message. And that's the whole message. So thank you.